This is Jarrod Horak, and this is my 2023 Preakness recap video. And before I recap the Preakness, I just want to thank everybody for watching these Triple Crown Series videos and purchasing my annual Derby and Preakness Day full cards. For the Derby, we came close, but weren't able to get the Derby this year. It's been last few years, it's been frustrating. Just missed that superfecta this year. It needed Angel of Empire to run second to hit that super. He ended up finishing a closing third. He was getting to two fills, couldn't get past that one. But I had a decent day on my Derby full card, and then a very good day on the Preakness full card. They ran 14 races on Preakness Saturday, and my top choices had 7 wins. I gave out multiple daily doubles, pick threes, multiple pick fours as well, 5 trifectas on the day, and then the Preakness Stakes itself. National Treasure, my top choice. I suggested a $100 win wager on him. He paid $7.80 to win. I had an $8 copy of the trifecta and then a $2 copy of the superfecta. So it was hard to make a lot of money in the Preakness Stakes this year. There were only 7 horses, and the logical horses came in. But we were able to make a few $100s, a decent profit, a very good Preakness Saturday, and hopefully we'll be able to carry the momentum into the Belmont Stakes. Now, if you watched my final Preakness video that I did Preakness week, you'll know that First Mission was my original top choice in the race, but he had an ankle issue, and then Friday, the day before the Preakness, they ended up scratching him out of that race with that rear ankle issue, and I updated my wagers to all my paying clients. My original second choice was National Treasure. I moved him up to be my top choice there, and mostly because of the pace scenario. The pace scenario just looked like it was going to be very slow, and he would be able to dictate terms from the inside post, and that's exactly what happened. And if you went to todaysracingdigest.com, as I suggested in my other Preakness videos, I said, go over there. I'm writing some articles for Today's Racing Digest, and I'm covering the Preakness Stakes, and I did some articles on the pace, and I went through and broke down the pace in those articles and suggested the National Treasure was going to be able to get out there, control the pace through moderate fractions, and he had a very good chance to wire the field, and that's exactly what happened. And in that race, the pace was slow. In the Preakness Stakes, National Treasure from the inside post, he was able to get out there, dictate the pace, the fractions of the race, 24.97, 48.92, 113.49. If you give a quality horse that kind of easy lead, just coasting along through those fractions, you know they're going to have a very good chance to succeed. And that's exactly what happened. Blazing Sevens tried to go with him, but you just knew National Treasure had to have something left with those slow fractions, and he did. He was able to hold Blazing Sevens at bay. He won by a head, but that was a fairly comfortable head there. You just knew that Blazing Sevens just wasn't going to get past him. Even on the gallop out, National Treasure had a decent gallop out. So you know he had a lot of energy left, and Blazing Sevens just could not get past him. He had every chance, but just couldn't do it. Now, your Derby winner, Mage, ended up finishing a disappointing third. A disappointing third to some people. A lot of people saw his Derby and they thought maybe he's going to be a Triple Crown winner. But I've been covering racing since 1980, and you just rarely see those pace-aided Derby winners rallying from far back through slow fractions. Just come back 2 weeks later and win the Preakness Stakes, especially when the pace scenario is so much different. Now, in the Derby, the pace was super quick. They had 22.35 was the opening quarter, 45.73, and 110.11. And I mentioned the Preakness, 24.97, 48.92, 113.49. So night and day for the pace there. You just could not expect Mage to be able to adapt to that slow pace scenario, considering he came from far back in that Kentucky Derby to win. So he had that pace-aided Derby, and then also there were 5 scratches in the Kentucky Derby. So everything sort of went his way in the Kentucky Derby from a pace standpoint. It looked like the pace was going to be honest, but it was an electric pace. We had a very fast pace again in the Derby in 2023, just like we did in 2022. And Mage was the best closer on that day, and he was able to win nicely. But then in the Preakness, the pace scenario was completely different. He was coming back in 2 weeks, and he was the only one coming back in 2 weeks. All of his rivals were fresh and ready to go, and they had a pace advantage over him, and they were able to get the job done. He ended up finishing a solid third. Good effort considering But if you look at his overall record, even it was a bit of a stretch to think that this was a Triple Crown winner. He's only 2 for 5 lifetime, and he's run in stakes races. He was in the Fountain of Youth Stakes. He was 4th. He was 2nd in the Florida Derby, and then he won the Kentucky Derby, and then he finished 3rd in the Preakness. So he's only 1 for 4 in the stakes ranks even. So he was a bit overhyped because he won the Derby. Obviously, the Derby winner is going to get all of the press, and that's what happened. He took the bulk of the money. But the race shape was against him, and he ran an okay race. And then also in the Preakness Stakes, if you look at the recent history, and I'll even go back to 1984. So in the Preakness Stakes from 1984 to 2016, that's 33 runnings of the Preakness, horses exiting the Kentucky Derby won 31 of those 33 Preakness Stakes. Only Bernardini and Rachel Alexandra were able to buck that trend and win the Preakness Stakes. And they did not compete in the Kentucky Derby. Now, the recent history from 2017 to 2023, the last 7 Preakness Stakes, horses that new shooters that did not run in the Kentucky Derby, they've won 5 Preaknesses in the last 7, including from 2020 to 2023. The last 4 Preakness Stakes were now won by new shooters. So you definitely see a completely different reverse trend in the Preakness Stakes, where it used to be a race that horses exiting the Kentucky Derby dominated, but now it's definitely changed with new shooters dominating recently in the Preakness Stakes. So there was a lot going against Mage with the recent new shooter angle, the slow pace, and him coming back in 2 weeks, and all that took its toll. And he was just so lightly raced. It was just expecting a lot of a horse that was so lightly raced with no 2-year-old experience to just jump up 2 weeks later after running the race of his life in the Derby and having so much pace help to just come back after that in a couple weeks and in a race with no pace. For him to be able to duplicate that effort was a bit of a stretch. But he ran a solid enough race, and this is a wide open crop at this point. And now we'll have to see in the Belmont Stakes. I don't think Mage is going to end up going there. I think National Treasure is still possible, but I'm going to be doing some Belmont Stakes recaps in the coming Belmont Stakes reports in the coming weeks for today's RacingDigest.com. I'll do written reports, so you can check their Belmont Stakes page. And coming up, I'll be doing some reports for them, and then I'll also be doing some videos on my YouTube channel, and then some other handicapping videos for some stakes races as well. So stay tuned to all of that information. And if you are interested in my Belmont Stakes Day full card, that will be available Belmont Stakes week at therunawayhorse.com. And I've had a lot of success in the Belmont Stakes recently. Now in the Preakness Stakes, the last 3 years I've won the Preakness, 2021, 22, and 23. Back-to-back top choices, had early voting in 2022, made a good profit there with some exotics as well. And then National Treasure this year also hit it in 2021. I've had a lot of past success in the Preakness as well. But the Belmont Stakes, I've had a tremendous amount of success as well. The last 9 runnings of the Belmont Stakes, my full cards, I've had winning tickets in 7 of those 9 years, 2014, 15, 17, 18, 20, 21, and 22. I've made some decent money in the Belmont Stakes, and let's see if I can do that again this year, carrying that momentum over from the Preakness Stakes into the Belmont Stakes. Again, if you want to read any of my Preakness articles that I wrote for today's Racing Digest, go over to their Preakness page. Like I said, I'll be covering the Belmont Stakes at that website as well, and also on my YouTube channel. And I also do full cards from Santa Anita Park each day. If you're interested in any of those, runawayhorse.com on my sales page. And then at horseracing.nation.com, I've been doing a daily best bets blog for many years. In the handicapping section on the front page at horseracing.nation.com, you can find my daily best bet each day. And that will wrap up this video. And again, I'll be back on Memorial Day weekend. I'm sure I'm going to come up with some kind of stakes video coming up. And then I'll also, as we start to get an idea of which horses are going to be running in the Belmont Stakes, I'll be doing some videos on those, previewing the field. Now, one of the horses early on that I like in the Belmont, I don't know the field yet or how the pace is going to play out, but after I saw him win the Tampa Bay Derby, I really thought Tapit Trice, based on his pedigree, Tapit, a very good Belmont Stakes sire, and I looked at his dosage index and dosage profile, and his dosage profile is lined up with a lot of recent Belmont Stakes winners. And he just has that look of a horse that's going to do well in the Belmont. And a trainer like Todd Pletcher, who struggles in the Kentucky Derby, typically his horses underperform in the Derby, then they skip the Preakness, they point to the Belmont, and then he has a lot of success in the Belmont Stakes. So a horse like Tapit Trice early on, again, he's not my top pick yet. I haven't seen the field or anything. We don't know which horses are going. But if he does show up in the Belmont Stakes, I think he's going to be a solid player. He was my Kentucky Derby top choice. The pace played to his strength, but he underperformed that day. But we've seen Todd Pletcher trainees bounce back and run much better races in the Belmont Stakes. And I think the Tapit Trice is one just to keep an eye on for the Belmont Stakes, to see how he trains and see if he ends up going in that direction. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you like this horse racing content. And that will wrap up this video. And I did a Preakness recap at todaysracingdigest.com. In the description in this video, I'll provide a link if you want to read my written recap of the Preakness Stakes. And until I see you next time, good luck at the races.